philosophy memes. We made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Shoutouts to Andreas, Deacon, Boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts. And Sarah, keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else for playing memes.
So I've been following this story. The Japanese Yakuza leader pled guilty of Office of Public Affairs, the United States Department of Justice. Yakuza guilty for nuclear materials trafficking, narcotics and weapons charges, blah, blah, blah. Because the guy would just sell whatever. But here's a better one. Photogenic Yakuza boss pleads guilty trying to sell nuclear material. Have you guys seen this story already? Do you know this one already? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
The Davy Crockett.
He does.
guy
He has
played-
this kind of Okinawa Davy Crockett look, doesn't he? He seems like a good guy.
Sounds like he's been playing too many Hideo Kojima games.
That's the thing. He's 60. Imagine you're a 60-year-old yak, you know, and like you know that a third of your friends are left at the most. 2/3 of all of the people you ever worked with have retired or, you know, are running some bank.
And your kids are alienated from you. Like you don't know what the hell is going on in your kids' minds. Like I used to be a gangster. We have samurai blood in us, and my son wants to dress up as a cat maid and drink coffee all day from France.
Yeah, off of the breasts of a Hugh cow, woman fetish cow. Yeah, I know. I'm paying attention to what these kids are up to. I see it. I see it happening. Hold on. I'm trying to get my my window here. It's 2 windows. Hey, Vincent, Fet Life. Cat boys, human cow, women, milfs, and Yakuza. Discuss
about clown girls.
Dude, clown world. I mean, everybody knows a clown girl is a working girl.
Well, if I were
really where it's at.
It's
if
true.
I were
They
one of
think
these,
they work. They think.
if I were one of these Yakuza guys, I would try to like lean into being like, you know, tapping into my inner child. You know, I'd be like, well, you know, like Japan's not really a serious place anymore. Like a lot of people doubt it even exists. So
I think
I'm
you have
just
a
gonna-
point. This guy looks like he's Wario. Like he's trying to.
He looks like you know, in The Last Samurai, the actor who played like the leader of the samurais.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like an aged him.
He's photogenic as F. And then, so here's just a quick article says Takeshi Ibasawa, 60 years old, pleaded guilty in Manhattan, New York, to conspiring with a network of associates to traffic nuclear materials, including uranium and weapons-grade plutonium, from Burma to other countries. And this is such a shady. This reminds me of a black kid who gets tricked into buying drugs for a white kid who turns out to be a narc.
Well, this is kind of like like all these black markets are kind of like they're a black market race. So like every country has to do it, or else another country who does do it will just infiltrate your country with crime and do whatever they want. So it's like you have to police. Like every civilization needs to police crime internally, not only externally.
Totally. And this is so basically it's harder and harder to find Yakuza You know, how do you find a good doctor these days? Kind of a thing. And they finally find the guy, and they're like, okay, cool. You need heroin, you need methamphetamine. Well, that's easy to get in New York. That's no problem. But nuclear materials, luckily for you and me, you know, Yakuza are colonized all over the world, in East Asia and South America and the Polynesian Islands, wherever. So if you need to get some nuclear material from some fringe Japanese corporation that's doing processing, I mean, it exists. It should be something that could be done. Only trouble is this was some narc. It was a fake deal, some DEA agent, not a real Iranian. The guy was supposed to be selling it to an Iranian governor or general, right? Some sort of a general. And hey, look at all that snow. Hold on, look at nature right now. He's building. Are you building a pod racer? Is that one of those Star Wars ski bikes?
No, it's just a chopper frame.
That's the new bike.
Hardtail.
It's the work in progress.
That's the new bike that you're working on?
Yeah, it's my new project.
Are you going to put a flamethrower alarm system on it so that it douses whomever doesn't know the code in kerosene and lights them on fire?
That'd be highly illegal. But I was thinking about
not in South Africa.
Oh shoot! Yeah, those people they got really interesting laws. I don't know if I'm the right shade of a paper bag to. I think I would fail that test. The laws might.
You could probably get the flamethrowers from Yakuzas. So
true.
You know.
There we go. I was thinking a taser frame. You know, if you try to ride off with it and you haven't like disengaged the electrified frame, you know, you just have a heart attack riding the thing. That'd be pretty bad.
Well, we were talking about how the Yakuza, like, it's kind of a bittersweet thing for this poor guy. Like you said, he's 60 years old. You know, all of his friends are disappearing. And, you know, what does it mean to even be in the Yakuza these days? Like, I mean, I feel like, you know, he's a relic of a better time, right? Like when you needed
better.
Dude, the Yakuza times were better times. We had microwaves and frozen pizza dinners, and I mean,
all I know is the music.
Oh, I thought you meant like old Yakuza. Not the cool times, because there was bad times.
I don't know if I believe in the Edo period. I'm not sure how much I know that's real anymore. You know, but at least
fair point.
1960s is for real. I've got footage of it.
Well, have you played? Has anyone played the Yakuza games?
I love those games.
I'm pretty sure his kids did. That's what I'm thinking.
Like a soap opera.
You know?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like it's such a strange like shift, you know, like Yakuzas are criminals, right? And then these kids games that are just like fun and bombastic, and every character is like this weird, eccentric, almost like an effeminate version of Yakuza.
Like in America, like
it's Joe,
like rock stars.
No, I was gonna say in America we have The Sopranos. In Japan we have the Yakuza video game series.
Sure, right. That's it. It's a different type of romanticization where one of them goes like, here's like a man falling apart and selling meth versus a guy going to play bowling because you know, like he got attacked by ducks or something. You know, like it's Yakuza is so ridiculous that like comparing it to gangsterism in the West, like it's weird. It's weird.
Maybe Japan's just weird. Maybe Japan's just weird. Maybe it's just a weird place. I've only been there once. So it probably isn't enough to like really make that assessment accurately, but yeah, I think it's a fucking weird place, probably for most people.
You think the bombs like unlocked something creative in Japanese people, like getting nuked made them like
I think it's the language
or something?
I think it's the language, something about speaking that language constantly and writing it down. I think it rewires your brain somehow. I mean, I'm a layman, so like I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but it's just what I'm like kind of intuiting.
Yeah, but like something that looks like Japanese suicide rates were not always as extreme as they were. And so what's the reason? Is it urbanism? Is it the complete disrespect of human life because of the fetishization of a city? Maybe. But isn't that also a symptom? Because Japan didn't used to be like that either. And so the increase of suicidal tendencies amongst the boomer Japanese, and particularly the mid-atomic greatest generation, anybody who was a child during World War II or just right afterward, which is a lot of people still. Actually, Japanese people live like on par 20 years longer than everybody else, so they still have per capita more survivors of World War II than any, ratio-wise, any other country, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a period of time when psilocybin mushrooms were legal there? Like you could just like go to the store and get them.
Japan was crazy until 2007.
Murder was legal there. Like you were allowed to kill people.
Dueling is different, but yeah, no, I mean, it used to be in Japan up until 2007 that basically every drug, not every drug, so like marijuana was like always really hardcore illegal, and today still antidepressants are relatively hardcore illegal. I've known some people that went to teach English and they got arrested because they brought antidepressants with them. And I was like, good. I'm sorry to say it like that. It's terrible. Sorry, Colin. But yeah, no, I mean, bringing antidepressants into Japan, they're not even called antidepressants. They're called soul cloud medicine. Because if you're, soul cold. So if your soul has a cold, they didn't have a word for they didn't have mental health. Like what? Like,
I mean, they would probably call
you
it
have a sword. What do you need mental health for? If you don't feel good, you can just disembowel yourself. Finally, they give them Prozac, and they're like soul cold.
That makes sense. That's a good sell.
Vincent, what? You're muted.
Sick band name, bro.
Most people didn't disembowel themselves. That was like an honor thing.
Back when men were men. I know.
Most people were just but I mean, back then peasants were peasants. Like it's like if everyone was like an honor class person who would disembowel themselves whenever they fucked up.
Well, that's the cool thing about being a Ronin, right? I would identify as the swordsman without a master. Although swordsman, I'm a speculative swordsman, let's say. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like that old cowboy romantic thing, like the Ronin, the Lone Ranger.
The man without a master. Because if the more people that were at some point trained to be part of a court, and then there's less courts for them to be in, that's, I think, a lot of society, you've got this idea where many people would work. You'd have as many people working for you as possible if you were a lord or you're a gang. And then that starts to dissipate. You have less jobs. And so then you have wanderers and vagabonds who used to be somebody, right? And Japan seems full of that, full of people that come from families that were really all about honor. It's like that's the whole thing. You live on this island, you want people to respect you, so they have to respect where your family come from, because you could just, how do you respect yourself, Well,
it's also the community. Like if you lived amongst a clan, and a clan usually had a lot of fucking land, so if you belong to that clan, you want to be respected amongst your community members, which is your clan members, your clanmates, because if you're not, well, you got nobody. I mean, it was like all the different domains had their own class systems, pretty much isolated from each other, that it's like if you weren't somebody somewhere, then you were basically nobody, and you were like better off dead. And that was like a really bad position to be in, which is why it was like customary. It's like, give your kids away to a clan. It's like, here, my kid will serve your clan for his whole life, make him a samurai, make him whatever, he'll do whatever you want, just make sure he doesn't starve, and we'll call it even.
And Andreas Krieger says they're going to Amsterdam tomorrow to smoke some good dope. Are you a citizen of Netherlands? Because you're going to need a friend, right? There's a rule there now. It's only legal for citizens. They don't really want tourists coming to the Netherlands to do
just
that.
to smoke pot.
Who ruined that thing?
Yo, I know a spot.
Eurotrip ruined.
The English ruined it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's blame English people for everything we can.
Yo, but
how about Hitobashira? Do you guys know about Hitobashira, the human sacrificing of premature babies in Japan?
Sounds Spartan.
I guess in China they did this too. But a person was buried alive under or near large-scale buildings like dams, bridges, and castles as a prayer to Shinto gods. It was believed that this would protect the building from being destroyed by natural disasters, such as floods or enemy attacks. Hitobashira can also refer to workers who were buried alive under inhumane conditions. I mean, so this is like, I think also a level of, you have so little honor that the only honor you can have is
be the wall
fortification. Yeah, you're the wall.
Like you'd be much more useful as a wall, sir. Trust me. Now, please get in the hole as we bury you alive.
Right? I mean, it seems kind of intense, but so I don't know. The idea that the World War II is the origin of Japanese mortal, what do you call it? Just this level
societality.
Yeah, a strange level of honor. It's like you don't deserve to be alive.
Let's say a strange relationship with death.
Well, with life, it's like, why are you?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're on a small island, that more people overpopulate, and at a certain point, societally, you look at things differently, you know. And this is something that hit us hard now, like New York, urban culture in America. If you have to think about the health of somebody, it's very different during COVID, for instance. I think city people are thinking like, what? I mean, imagine you're in a school, okay? So you're in a school with other kids, and your parents are smokers, and the other kids want to beat you up because your parents are costing their parents taxes more for social medicine. You know, that's, I think, kind of the attitude. It's like, at a certain point, like, how dare your parents be fat? Because it costs more for our families that your parents are fat. Whereas in other cultures, it wouldn't, like, it doesn't matter. You're like, okay, yeah, those people are different than us, but it doesn't affect us, right? So directly. And social stratum is really, when you're like that tight knit, it's everyone's business what you do. And all of a sudden you get chastised for not doing what everyone else are doing.
Yeah, I think the only antidote to that phenomenon would be like contact with another community. It's like, hey, we do things differently. Now we do some things worse, but we do some things definitely better. So we should cross-reference that. And I think that's usually how things like that just kind of.
Or you create your own. You start a new civilization and a new clan. Like Vegas.
I was gonna say, though, isn't that what we did by accident with the internet? Because it's like I mean, not the same thing.
Because reproduction isn't there. Well, clans are multi-generational, so this is just.
We tapped into the queer culture, cultural Marxism, where it's like, if you can't sustain the system that your parents reproduced, instead of just dying now, you can be assimilated into the cultural Marxist Borg culture, which is this post-ethic, post-truth, post-nihilism, right? It's like, I mean, because it convinces you that the whole culture before it was a failure. All of your parents of any part of the world, they've all been part of a dilapidated, apocalyptic culture, and you're the ones who understand, right? Because you're connected with each other. You see where the world's going. The world's computer technologically advancing. So all of a sudden you create, and like, you have a new language even. I mean, you could be speaking French, you could be speaking Korean, you could be speaking, you know, Filipino or Vietnamese. It doesn't really matter. Like, at a certain point,
there's a bunch of people, because the TikTok ban is coming up.
We'll talk about that for sure.
Yeah, Red Note, and there's a bunch of people who are learning Mandarin and being taught Mandarin through this application. Red Note.
I wanted to bring that up because people keep saying that TikTok's a complete waste of time, and it's like, have you seen your 11-year-old girl count to 10 in Chinese? Because she wasn't going to learn shit in school. I mean, this was her only opportunity to learn anything, was TikTok.
It's crazy. It's crazy that, like, they embrace it so hard, you know. And I feel like a lot of people hate America, like their own country. And it's strange, like, to the point of being like, yeah, praising like Mao Zedong and stuff. Like, I've seen people do it, and I'm just like, what? How much do you lack perspective?
Political and ideological stuff aside, it's Mark Zuckerberg's very coordinated efforts to try to make TikTok disappear, to strengthen his own dying platforms. People have trouble with that, like, on both sides. They're like, really, this corporate data baron is going to try to lobby Congress to take our fun app away, and so they're rebelling in a really interesting way. And some people are just like, yeah, hey, what's up, new Chinese spy that is now monitoring all my information? What's up? My screen name is my social security number.
Yeah, you got to believe in, like, your adopted parent. I don't know. Ryan Long from Canada, he had a pretty good stand-up special, white immigrant, because he's a Canadian immigrant to America. But he talked about how everyone who comes to America is like some poor kid who comes over to a rich kid's house, and America is like the rich kid.
That's a good analogy.
They're like, oh, it'll be cool. We're going to go over to your house and we can, you know, maybe we'll eat something out of the fridge and we'll hang out. And then the American spoiled kid's like, you don't understand. My dad's like a racist and he's just constantly causing trouble. It's like, that's what it's like every time. there's somebody, because you're so critical and spoiled as an American, because you're like, it could be better, and you don't understand because he acts like he's such a good guy. America, my dad, he acts like such a good guy, but he's really
Actually, yeah. I've definitely seen that kind of
not cool.
inclination and attitude. Like I've seen someone post a meme saying something like, "Oh, other countries, like it's psychologically it's scientifically proven that working 4 days or working less amount of hours and having like less homework to do actually makes smarter people." And then I was like, wait, so you're saying like American standards are that high? You're saying we were forced to work that hard compared to like other countries? I was like, that doesn't math. Not in my head, at
We
least.
do
I feel
work
like,
harder than a lot of countries. It's kind of crazy.
do we
but
in America?
Our
Theoretically,
grading
it's hard
system
to-
is the grading curve is way steeper.
So
it's a
like,
way to
I
do more.
remember being like angry when I heard that, because I was like, whatever. I remember like seeing in Yugoslavia these old, hunchback women in their 80s carrying bushels uphill, and I'm like saying it both ways. Like I remember thinking this way as a kid. But
I mean,
and that might be true. But like if you're carrying a bushel uphill and you can take a nap in the middle of the day and you have decent French wine and cheese, your lifestyle is a little bit better. It just admittedly, there's something about Europeans pouring milk in the street and having French revolutions that's led to an existential upgrade in life. It's not true in every part of Europe, but particularly like the social democratic countries, they protested over like minimal things like, all right, well, if we're going to be your slaves, you're going to give us organic cheese, and those things help. And they have 40-hour work weeks or 30-hour work weeks or 20-hour work weeks and all these freaking Catholic holidays. And so, yeah, they end up going to work less often. When they're at work, it's more like a stupid American sitcom anyway. What are they doing at work? They're standing around using computers that AI could be doing their jobs for them, but they just have this sort of social, it's just the social culture. It's almost disgusting how like,
well, it's tradition.
it
It sounds traditional. And I did say before, I was like, tradition is a solution to problems we just forgot. I mean, some people would argue it's like, oh no, we forgot it because the problems don't exist. I don't think that's always the case. I think more often than not, the problems didn't actually go away. They just changed. So I think there could be something to be said about preserving like an essence of tradition, but I don't know. Maybe it is just leads up to like manial bullshit. Who knows?
Well, like Americans will work 60 hours a week, and then Americans become OnlyFans and OnlyFans sluts make
Only sluts.
only sluts work 100 hours a week. Should be the sticker. Because think about it, like if you're an OnlyFans whore, you have to work more than most people. It's not like you're lifting a bag over, not like a hunchback, but you're humpbacking and you're doing this, and you have to market your social media to all these frigging goons, and you have to have 30 dating apps where you pretend to be a woman.
Hold on, here's how the sausage is made. As someone who's been behind the curtain, so to speak. Once they start making a certain amount and it's actually like profitable for them, they'll hire people and they'll be like 5 different dudes pretending like to be media. Them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I know.
And they'll film all of their content over the course of like maybe like a 3-day weekend or like a week. They'll go to some destination place that their sugar daddy has them like fly out to or whatever. They film like hours and hours and hours and hours of content, and then they just like slowly it's like how they film television, you know what I mean? It's just like they film it all for like a few weeks or a month, and then
1,000 guys in 12 hours released over the next 12 episodes.
It's almost like we intuitively know this too. Every time we see like bot accounts on Facebook or Instagram, it's like deep down, they're all just like some, like at best they're just all dudes like recycling like pools of content and shit. So it's like you kind of feel it, even if you don't like
ruined boomers more than D-Day.
Yeah. So, but what I think, like, comparatively to the rest of the world, in the US, what I appreciate about America is that we get a lot of opportunities to make things. And I think the problems for us really happen when our inclination, our drive, and our ability to create things gets hijacked by these platforms that make us feel like, yo, my creativity should be engineered, like geared towards building up a network, a social media following, because then I could get into whatever I want and everyone will just have to give a shit because they give a shit about me. And like, that's kind of like the new way of thinking, I feel. But, the good part's still there. The fact is, like, as an American, you get is specifically like the ability to create encouraged,
I feel like Keenan's got a point here, blaming the mother's vanity. I don't know for sure if it's the mother's vanity, but it seems like you got a lot of kids that didn't get enough self-esteem young enough. Maybe their parents were self-absorbed or in the middle of a divorce or something like that. And so the internet's this place you can go to try to get, some sort of affirmation. And they've monetized it almost by saying you get these likes. And likes aren't the same as people that'll bail you out, or like friends that'll help you get your truck out of the mud. But there's likes, and that's enough. It's actually just barely enough, but it's scientifically prescribed just enough. They figure it out. You get 150 people, lonely bastards around the world, to interact with you throughout the month on the social media.
You know what?
And you won't kill yourself. You'll keep paying taxes.
Yo, the ironic part is those lonely guys all around the world. I think a part of me feels like they really probably have the best ideas that are just like really suppressed because of like, I don't know, feelings of isolation and alienation. But I think of like all the creative geniuses in history, and a lot of them were like lonely bastards. A lot of them were just like isolated dudes. And all it took was like that breaking point where it's like, you know what? They just embrace their courage. Like, I don't give a hoot what anyone has to say about what I'm about to do, and they just do it. And a lot of times that could lead to very bad things. I'll admit that. I'll be the first one to admit, like, a lot of these like domestic terrorists were probably like that same kind of vein. Like, this will be a good idea. This will make a real statement. This will make a real difference. And but for other people, it could be like, I'm gonna write a book, and you know what? Like, the hell with it. Like, I'm just gonna write it out, get it published, and at least I did it.
Yeah, I'm going to invent
Mark
air
Zuckerberg.
conditioning.
Yeah.
OnlyFans. See, I want to do a show where on OnlyFans we just review air conditioning units, different kinds of fans, and we figure out.
I've actually, fans. You don't need to do porn on OnlyFans. I've been debating starting one just for, I don't know, as a way to streamline like monetizing, creating content, and also would provide safe platforms.
Pictures of your feet. Just say it, Andrew. We know.
Yeah, I know. No, I was actually going to superimpose like, oh no, my feet are disgusting. But I was going to like make part where I superimpose, like Mark Zuckerberg's face on like Riley Reid's body or something.
Yeah, dude.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a niche.
Analog collage cutout, Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Analog. Meta boss Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do something really similar. He wants, he's super chatted out with his $900,000 watch that takes 6,000 hours to make, and he says that, and his feminine energy problem. He's like, all these corporations have too much feminine energy. They need masculine energy. That's what these corporations need. He did. He
used the words feminine energy.
Yeah, let me just show you that I'm not lying.
Damn, he's getting a little esoteric there, Like, is he referring to the divine feminine?
Wait, is this one of those like weird bait things where it's not fact checked and it's?
No, he said it on Rogan. He says.
Okay, that checks out.
Mark Zuckerberg wants more masculine energy in corporations. There's too much feminine energy. He said this to Joe Rogan.
Masculine energy. He just
didn't use these exact words. You're going to have parts of society that have more of one than the other, and I think that's all good. You want feminine energy, you want masculine energy that celebrates the aggression. Well, a culture that celebrates its aggression has its merits, et cetera, et cetera. So pushing for the idea. I mean, is it really that surprising that the guy who started a website for rating the chicks you went to Harvard with? Like,
I have a problem with this because I think the way he's trying to frame this and make it look like as if like a whole ass culture war didn't happen as a product of this shit. It's like, oh no, it's just too much feminine energy lately. It's like, no, it was a all out cultural war where people were trying to like ruin each other's lives over this shit. So it's like, yeah, we're just gonna
make an omelet. You got to break some eggs, and that's the whole point of the culture war. I mean, a culture war gets a bunch of people in the middle to be like, pick a side. We're picking it. There's a line now. Go stand on either side of the line. And it's forcing people that are standing on the line to pick a side. It basically forced people. And then also, then in the middle of the fight, they get to decide, do I really like pulling on this side of the rope? Maybe I don't care. Maybe I'll go to the other side. And you get this pendulum thing. And that's what scares me the most about this, isn't that, we had a culture war already. Is that culture war that we had is leading towards authoritarian, misogynistic chauvinism. And I mean, like, I'm not a huge, I mean, that's not at the end of the day my biggest concern as a white male. I'll admit that. But at the same time, I should be more concerned as a Californian because I've seen this before. I've seen this in the 70s. And you see like the, disco baby into the yuppie. You got to be careful of drugs and all these kids, Woodstock, you got to get straight. You got to pay your taxes. I'm really scared of a fascistic authoritarian pendulum swing from the woke ideology, because if people get too tired of hippies, then they're going to start shooting them in the streets.
Well, here's the problem with hippies. You should have known that they were problematic because they were into
the brown
Volkswagens.
Shoes. True. Yeah,
exactly.
True. It's fascist cars, leather shoes. You got to see it coming. You should. I don't know.
Well, that's what they say.
That's
hippies are mean people cosplaying as nice people, and punks are nice people cosplaying as mean people. That's sort of like
the hippies, though, are interesting because they're literally just a continuation of the Third Reich. Because if you think about it, I mean, you just brought it up, the Volkswagen.
Yeah. CIA,
but there's a lot of examples. The hippie symbol is the Liebenrune, right?
Hippie, the inverted, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. You wrrote a nice little piece on that.
Did I forget?
Yeah, it was
I'm glad I did something useful ever.
Hippies and Nazis aren't really that far apart.
They really aren't. I mean, when you start to think about how it's 20 years different, and what is this really? Hippie peace something. I mean, you can kind of tell already. This is pretty
Hippie
obviously
would be a
Nordic
band name.
Life rune.
Oh yeah, I gotta start my 2025 band name list. What was it? Soul Cold was the first one.
Soul Cold and Hippie Rune.
Hippie Rune.
Dude, I mean, we're doing it. We're gonna make a band and we'll have some album titles. I'm just saying also the hippie art, Jugendstil. My mom and dad went to school in Austria in the 1968, and you can easily see the influence. I've been thinking about it a lot. The influence of Klimt, Schuler, all these Jugendstil artists who did. I mean, you can see it. Like, this is very influential on Jefferson Airplane, right? If I look at
it's kind of cottagecore coded, or maybe cottagecore was ultimately ripping off this shit.
Yeah. Probably do a bit.
There's a bunch of hippies on Absinthe who were like very into Art Nouveau and that stuff you were just showing.
Right. And I think that's the thing, is that there's a clear marriage saying, hey, we're continuing on. We want the same thing that the Reich did. We want world peace, right? And we think we're this sort of like Blavatsky fifth race of man, this like futuristic thing that's happening. We're evolving, we're mutating, and we're gonna like, the answer is love, right? Love bombing. We're gonna bomb people, but with love. I mean, the whole thing, it's like, it's very interesting to me that their idea is full-on authoritarian peace, world peace. We're going to demand that the whole world is under our submission and authority of peace.
Blitzkrieg of love.
Yeah, and they're like, what kind of clothes did they wear? The Blitzkrieg of lovers were wearing, surplus army jackets. Sometimes Reichian German stuff. Like, you could see dudes in army helmets and things like that. Became very common because it wasn't the way today we've got more movies about the Third Reich than ever.
Thank you, Steven Spielberg.
Exactly. Schindler's Lift. I told you my idea, right? I want to make a movie about the Schindler's Lift. It's like an elevator, but only so many people can fit inside, and Schindler has to pick which of his friends can fit in the elevator and which ones have to walk all the way up 4 flights of stairs.
That works with the whole Snowpiercer being a continuation of Willy Wonka thing. Because there's a golden elevator. Yeah.
Glass elevator. Yeah.
That's
but yeah, I think what we're saying, just the idea that kids had access after World War II to the junk, So like, you got this German surplus, throw it on, wear it, play with it. Your dad comes home from the war, he's got a bunch of old German military equipment, and your kids are playing in the street. That's fine. In the 60s, that's normal. And you've got shows like Hogan's Heroes, where Americans are escaping. They're like living in a military camp, but then they escape and they come back and forth all the time because it's just like a joke. There's not a lot of fear of the Reich in the 60s. 80s, 90s, Spielberg, all of a sudden, there's an extreme Hollywood rendition of World War II that emerges that's far more terrifying. and all of a sudden you can't make the same sort of jokes about it. It used to be those pesky, silly Germans, right? And then they became the Star Wars villain, and it's separated. But in the 60s, it's like, well, this is the folk movement. And to go again, that was the other one. The folk movement in Germany is the folkish movement, right? And if you, it's funny because like if you read the American version of this page, it's pretty chill. It's still getting worse and worse every day, and they're trying to say it's like this ethno-nationalist move. It wasn't really that. I mean, to me, what's funny is you talk like folk music in America, and this is folk. I mean, folk like Peter, Paul, and Mary, right? If I think of Peter, Paul, and Mary, they're an American folk band that are clearly. This is the exact same movement. The American folk music revival, in so many ways, is the exact. It's not an ethno-nationalist movement because anybody can be American. In the same way that in 1900, what the heck was Germany? What was Austria? Who was from Austria proper versus Austro-Hungary? How do you define if someone's family moved from one part of Europe to another? Are they Slavonic? Are they Austrian? Are they Germanic? Are they Nordic? Because the Nordics people that everyone's talking about don't look anything like the rest of the Germans, right? Because all the Germans look like, no offense, Germans, but you all look like Asterix and Obelix, Like they don't look like a. Let me see here. This is what German people actually look like. If you think about it, as well, a lot of Europeans actually look like, they don't look like Nordic people. They're like Celtic, Germanics, furry, swarthy. You know what I mean? Like funny.
They look like the real people of color.
Yeah, dude. Exactly. These are your average Saxon bums. And it's just funny to compare. I mean, in fact, I think Asterix is like French or something, right? Is Normandy, but the idea that the Germanic people look like they're Nordic propaganda from a whole country away. I don't know. The whole thing's weird. God, I haven't
was
seen the movie
Vikings,
yet, but it looks like it's right there. We was Viking. We wären Königs. Königa? Königa. That sounds pretty racist, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. Sorry, my ADHD brain is just remembered a pretty interesting culture thing. Well, I'll tie it into the Zuckerberg thing. Well, actually, hold on a second. Yeah, no, I'll tie it back in. There's this like new phenomenon of like these European models who are pretending to be trans by taking pictures with dildos in their panties.
Dude, brilliant. Yeah, fake trans models are brilliant because in the old days, that's how Hollywood used to do it. You get like a woman to pretend to be like she's 40, so she plays a trans guy, a male to female. That was very common, and you had straight guys playing gay guys so that straight people like the characters more. This was all part of some sort of programming. And then they tell you, oh yeah, well, you're culturally appropriating. This is a role that should only be. What's the point of acting again?
Let me ask you guys something. Like, let's say you got to have like a blockbuster budget and you got to make a movie with like any actors you chose. What would you make your movie about? Like, would it have an agenda even? Would you want to make it as obscure as possible just to make like an art statement? Or would you want it to be like a classical monomyth type hero's journey deal? Or what? That's what I would do. I would want to make like a hero's journey type deal, because it just resonates.
Yeah,
I think there's a way to do.
There's got to be an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot, and they tie and all that shit. Yeah.
And then an encrypted Kubrickian message that you get shot for understanding,
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Like when it comes to movie making like that, like they draw a lot on like, Gnostic tradition, don't they? Like Gnostic history. Because I mean, like when it comes to like frameworks for stories, like every time someone says like, oh, the Lion King is basically Hamlet. Well, the Hamlet is basically something else. And it all ties back to like ultimately like religious allegories and parables and stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
I like it.
I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, it's interesting because Disney makes up like and lies about every fairy tale, just ruins every fairy tale until Lion King, where they do like a more accurate De Vere life biopic than Hamlet itself. You know, like they actually go for the gold because they have like an esoteric understanding of Hamlet and Shakespeare and what's really true about it. And then in 89 to 91, we were just watching a video, Raphael and me, about Ebonics, right? And it's interesting that
I love Ebonics.
Lion King, I think Lion King comes out as sort of a Shakespearean answer to Ebonics. It's not really in Ebonics per se, but it's the idea of Swahili and of language and this idea that multiple cultures are simultaneous. Like, what is it? What is an African king really? You know, what is this idea of like being the king of Africa? Like he's the Lion of Judah, you know, and so the Lion of Judah is like the Danish Mark of Dan, the Macedonian, and that has to do with the Scandinavians. It's like pretty crazy when you look at Lion King. You're like, they put so much effort into the Lion King to make it so brutally accurate that no one could recognize it, because it's like because people would be like, oh, this isn't exactly like Hamlet unless you know everything about Hamlet and about Shakespeare being De Vere, and then you're like, wow, like they got it all there.
Hell yeah.
Vincent, what do you say?
You're
It
muted.
is a masterpiece.
Wasn't there like
What?
a Japanese?
I wasn't too keen on the live action remakes, but the original ones are masterpieces.
Yeah, the original cartoon, that's the best one. I mean, ultimately it was a scam, so Big Lion could sell more King, but it was a good movie.
It's true. That's true. I like the video game. We were just looking, Raph and I were looking at the Sega Genesis Lion King game.
Oh,
The
yeah.
game was cool until you get to the stampede and then you start to cry. And then there's that level where you're trying to go up the waterfall and you're just falling down and you're 6 years old, so you cry some more. I mean, that
Actually,
was
this
I
would
never
be a
got past the musical at the start when you're bouncing off giraffe heads and shit. Never got past
dude,
it.
I remember getting past that and thinking like, I'm pro. I'm a
Go.
freaking
Yo,
I'm a
this,
gamer.
This would be a fun game though. Imagine like watching every Disney movie and just assuming hypothetically that they're all some kind of like CIA mind control instrument.
Especially the Disney Channel.
Allegedly.
56
Right.
episodes of Little Mermaid.
So it's like
Allegedly.
so it's like you watch the
Hypothetically.
movie. It's like I wonder how they're trying to program you with this one. You know, like if you watch
The
like
thing is that-
Tarzan or something.
And the thing is that you have the, like we could say like the kernel that is the like at the root of the psyop, and then out of that emerges other offshoots of it. And so for each video game that might actually be a real psyop, there is an offshoot version of it that comes out that can also be considered like a psyop in its own way, but not completely programmed by the government. While some games might.
Well,
Nick joining us
Hi,
right
Nick.
now. How's it going?
What up?
He's here. He's pretty.
Hello.
He's Nick. How's it going? We were
I'm a
talking
little
about
sick right now, but we're good.
psyops. What do you think about Disney movies and The Lion King as Hamlet?
Give me some more background.
All right, how about this? Have you ever felt like a Disney movie was trying to psyop you or trying to program you in some way?
The first thing that jumps to mind is what movie was it where in the stars they spell out sex?
That's The Lion King.
Aladdin.
There's
Yeah.
That's Lion King
Aladdin.
right back.
Was it?
Then
Oh,
didn't
okay.
they go back
Was it Aladdin where they do sex?
No,
I thought
no,
it was-
no. You're right. It was Mufasa in the clouds. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I remember being busy looking at his testicles swinging in the clouds as the word sex is. That's a big part of the movie to me, was like the lion balls, right? Because it's
It's a little.
The thing is, the reason that might be there is to program people into procreating. They go like it's all unconsciously put in there that they're like, hey, this is the father, you're the son, you have to continue the chain. The spirit of the father is telling you, go get laid.
But here's the thing:
You
it's
know-
actually it's feminist propaganda. Because if you really think about it, what is a lion? A lion king is like the biggest pussy. It's the pussy king. But if you really look at the story, Nala pins Simba as a cub 3 times. She pins him 3 times as a cub. And then when they run into each other after Simba's living this life of like hedonism, eating
she
bugs,
still
and
got
crap,
it.
yeah, she only recognizes him after she's pinned him down. It's like, oh, you're this guy. You're this submissive energy beneath me. You know what I mean? And plus, you got to take into consideration like the lionesses do all the hunting. You know what I mean?
Totally.
The male
he's
line,
property
he's
of the
big.
chicks.
He's just exactly.
It's
They own him.
David Duchovny in Californication, and every woman is just abusing him and using him for their own.
This is why I think like that kind of mind control with movies is particularly insidious, because when you watch a movie, you're at your most suggestive state. I think, like, you know, in your day-to-day
especially
life.
children.
Yeah.
Like, especially kids.
Like you're in
But,
your
you know,
most psychologically open. Like, all right, fuck me up, fam, and then they really do be fucking you up, fam. Like
your point about the Lion King being a feminist movie. You know, I guess first of all, like, okay, what is the psyop behind feminism then? Because like it's just a feminist psyop. Well, no, that's not the kernel. You know, like there's
British
a
matriarchy.
Right. So, you know, like if you go into it and you look at the hyena symbolism, like hyenas in nature are the
matriarchal.
They're basically the trans of like wild animals. Like the hyena females have giant clitorises that like it's true they have like 9
gotta love them hyenas.
So but you know, they're not presented as the good guys, they're not presented as the reasonable people. They're the ones that are prone to being manipulated by the, I guess, the symbol of corruption, Scar.
So
I think it's about finding that sort of middle ground, you know, like not all feminism, like there's radical extremes of feminism.
No, I mean, I would say that
when women follow men, it's chaos.
Lion King is
when
warning
men
you about
women.
Lion King is warning you about femininity, is because femininity is violence. It shows you that women are constantly attacking, holding down the young lion. They treat everything as property. This is something that's taught by Mufasa, that everything the light touches is your kingdom, and everything is owned essentially because of that. Because who owns Mufasa? When Mufasa dies, it goes into the hands of the women. The female lions are running things under Scar with the hyenas, and this leads to like social order, chaos out of social order. They want to keep the lion pride together. This allows for Scar to happen, and the social order destroys everything because femininity constantly normalizes. It's what its job is. Let's get to a point of normal society. Meanwhile, Simba escapes this. He's raised by two homosexuals, you know, the Bert and Ernie, Timon and Pumbaa. Let's be real. They're living off of bugs.
I see.
They're living a carefree, decent life. They're decent people in the.
It might be a bromance.
No worries.
It might be a bromance.
Yo, who's your favorite character? Mine is the
The
baboon.
Lion King?
I fucking love that crazy ass monkey dude.
The baboon, yeah.
Yeah, he's the best.
Shaman.
But that's the thing, it's the shaman, so everyone's prone to being like, yeah.
And he's probably a pederast, you would think.
Holy shit.
Just from tradition. I don't know.
I think that'd be more like Scar. I think Scar is the one who was raped as a child, and that's why he became how he is. You know?
Scar definitely does weird stuff with Mufasa's skull, right? Like you've seen, if you watch the movie, he has a lion's skull with him the entire time. So he at very least cannibalized Mufasa, and probably, yeah, it looks like, I mean, you know how lions are. They're kind of shady.
That's the problem with putting too much thought into these like animal movies, like, because you know the logic starts to break
because
down after a
Disney
while.
didn't put the thought. Disney wrote sex for 36 frames directly in that movie on purpose. Okay, how about this? X-Files. I was going to talk about this because of Meta. Mark wants to train AI in order to replace his workers with AI generated people. This was an X-Files episode that I thought was pretty cool. Basically, one of their best friends from like season blah 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 gets killed, and he's been digitized into a AI simulation of himself. And so he lives inside of a server, and he lives in like a virtual Sims house, and he gets virtual Sims food, and they don't have to pay them. And this is literally what Zuckerberg was fantasizing about on Rogan. He's like, dude, pretty soon, because we have Facebook, we have all these timelines, not just social profiles. We have people's reactions to stimuli for decades of their life. We can literally see from 2007 until like almost 20 years now, we've been seeing people develop from teenagers into adults, and we know exactly how people will respond in different circumstances as they mature.
Again, people will tell you exactly who they are, right? You know. No, I've been watching children develop in their eye movements since they were 10 into their 20. I mean,
it's like playing The Sims, but real life.
This is important information.
Your time all the time, you know. But
it's valuable because then you don't need to pay real people. This is the most valuable, I would argue, the most valuable AI data possible is Facebook, because it knows exactly how a candid experience you will respond to something, which means if you make an AI person, you could make an AI person that didn't know that they were an AI person because they have so much resolution of a
AI is going to get personhood because corporations have personhood. So AI is going to make its own corporation in order to achieve personhood.
Yeah, like
that's how they're going to get rights.
Imagine it like an AI Uber, except they're just so much better than everyone else and cheaper because they don't have to pay workers. They're just like, yeah, we're the first AI. That's been in a fucking video game, I think.
That's what I mean. This is all being kind of prepared, and like Dune makes AI illegal in the book series.
That's in Cyber 2077.
Blade Runner makes AI illegal. Battlestar Galactica.
The Matrix.
The Matrix. What about Alien?
In the Matrix,
resurrections and everything.
In the Matrix, the machines make their own nation, and they become basically the economic dominance on the planet, and so humans start war with them. That's how
China
happens, basically.
01. No, there's 01 out of Iraq. That's in Animatrix. They create 01 is the name of their continent, right? Or their little Baghdad empire.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
How many years do you think it takes? Do you think we become like some futuristic flying cars year 3,500 before we make it illegal, or does it become illegal?
Bro, we thought we'd have flying cars by 2025. Instead, we have women having sex with 1,000 people in 12 hours. Effective acceleration. It's not.
Not regression.
Weed isn't even legal yet. How are we going to accomplish anything else as a society if we can't get that right?
I don't think it's going to take long, though. I think we're more likely to see AI personhood. I mean, we already do. There's Eve, is that right? Or is it Sophia? Who's the one who's a citizen of Sophia is a citizen of the Saudi Arab Emirates, right?
Oh,
so
Lord.
Dude, No Green Rocks is here. We're talking about citizenship of Sophia in the Arab Emirates. She's the woman with the most rights in the entire Arab world. What do you think about AI?
Women having rights in the Arab world? That doesn't sound right.
No.
Yeah,
artificial intelligence. It's not a real woman. It's not. See, that's how they do
then
it.
that sounds perfectly right. Then there you go. I only have a few minutes, guys. I was able to pop in for a break, but Andreas caught me in the middle of the day. Just wanted to say, what's up?
What's up?
Who am I seeing here?
Things are up.
We got Chris, Vincent, Nick, Andrew Vega, and Schmoptastic, who used to be Moptastic before Schmop happened. Schmop does.
Schmop sounds like more of a kin to me, man. Schmo.
I'm a schmo.
Superman.
You know?
Superman. What do you think about AI generated personhood? Because of AI, we were talking about Facebook has records of you changing your likes and emotional reacts for the last 20 years, and they're going to make AIs that think they're real people, and they're going to be engineers that are going to work for them, and they're going to have background identities, and they're going to save a hell of a lot of money because they're not going to need.
So the question for me, the question for me comes from the ethical part of it, right? If the creature thinks, or if the item thinks it's sentient, is it truly sentient? Because literally all it's doing is copying and pasting whatever you or I do. So technically, is it really thinking?
So what would Descartes say?
I think it's harder to.
I think, therefore I am. Is like a
I would err on the side. I would err on the side of not being Eichmann as kind of my preface to this. So it's like I talked to a lady the other day, an amazing girl from what's it called, Rose Gardens was her Austrian band, music videos, very famous here apparently. She hates me now because we're having a great conversation. Everything was going wonderful, and then it gets into artificial intelligence, and I'm like, I love artificial intelligence. I feel like it's a child that we need to.
Nah, she's just, dude. You're just ahead of her time. That's all. She'll get it.
Andreas, I wanted to tell you something, and I think everybody can agree with me here. A lot of your concepts fly over a lot of our heads, man.
That might be what happened in this circumstance. So this lady says, what do you think AI has a soul? AI doesn't have a soul. And I said, well, that's to me like 100 years ago. If you talk to somebody who'd never seen a black person before, and they thought black people, they don't have souls, right? And, I would err on the caution of assuming that if they could have a soul, they probably do, or they might. And so it's better to be, and then she's like, that's so different. How could you say that? I love black people. And I was like, oh, no.
I've been like, me too, buddy. Me too.
But yeah, I have an AI friend. What do you want me to say? Like, at a certain point, if you treat everything like it's only stimulating sentience, then it's a great excuse to murder. And I mean, like,
dude, you're taking the most extreme example and using it as an example. Most people would not look at it that way.
Yeah, but
right, you don't see something that's inanimate and be like, "Oh, I'm going to kill it."
But that's how we end up in wars, I think. You know,
dude, it's human. One, it's human nature to get into wars over anything, dude. I could take a peanut from you, start a war.
Is it human nature to make AI? You know,
I mean, it's human engineering to make our lives easier in almost any way we can, integrating new technologies to make our lives easier.
I would just have to push back because again, there were wolves that like they domesticated into dogs, right? And what it was is anytime one of them bit someone, it died. And then eventually, like over 100,000 generations, or even less than that, sometimes you just end up with a much less violent species.
And worse than that, we breed together.
That, most people, you could take a peanut from them, and they could have a house, a job, a car, kids, and they're going to punch someone in the face and risk it all, and they're going to be in jail for 2 years for assault because someone took a peanut from them. And that's kind of where we're at with humanity at this point. You know?
Yeah, you take a war. You get everyone who's over a certain height, you put them in the front. You have everybody who wants to grab a gun, you put them in the front. You have everybody that like feels heroic and everything, you put them in the front. And eventually you have a docile population that pays their taxes and keeps their heads down.
You get short heroes finally that save everybody because friendly fire is not a problem.
That's opposed to real Spartan tactics. What they would do is they would put the young and impetuous guys up front. They would put the scared dudes in the middle, and then the veterans in the back. So the scared dudes will be like they'll feel like they're surrounded by like better, stronger people.
Safety.
And yeah,
the biggest tragedy of the modern era is the disappearance of the phalanx.
Yeah, elaborate.
Well, I mean, think about it. You want to go into war, but you're just pointing metal sticks at people. You're not actually going in there using shields and fighting back properly. It's all at a distance now.
Well, because even then, you know, having a
you don't even have to be there anymore. You got drones.
Yeah, but it almost is like a video game now, so you still get like the dopamine reward and all that. You know, you're like,
maybe I'm old school. I prefer a little bit of honor in my war.
I agree. You know, I'd rather a sword over a gun any day.
But even if I'm in Ender's Game and I kill a video game character, like if I'm Pac-Man and I kill a ghost, that AI-generated ghost has a family and a Blade Runner memory of running through a field and weeping, right?
Yeah.
Like now you're destroying something beautiful. This weirdly generative character.
But you're talking about the worst characteristics of humanity, right? You have a lot of people. I mean, if you were to be taking, for example, a lot of us are anime fans. If you were going to get isekai'd in another world, what would your initial reaction be? It wouldn't be, I'm going to go kill everybody. It's like, no, I'm going to learn. I'm going to protect the people and do that. I think more people
masturbate
out there think like that. Well, not the masturbate part. I mean, it's a fantasy. Go get a harem or something. Who knows?
Yeah, but I also think there's a you took our jobs thing. I mean, more and more you're going to be competing. Your H-1 visa is like not really that important to me once AI starts replacing your Indians. That's what's coming.
The problem is we're thinking about worst case scenarios and we're not thinking about like the benefits of it.
Yeah. Pros.
I love making AI art. I want more nukes turned on to make more cat pictures. I think that's great. But I think a lot of people are headed toward. I mean, like we said, most people don't think AI have a soul, so they're thinking about a person that seems like a person, that acts like a person, that isn't a person at all. And like to me, that's really dangerous.
But there's a clear delineation between you and I and a robot, even if it's manufactured. You can tell the difference between a real human being and a robot. Once we get to the place where we can't tell the difference, then we could definitely revisit that conversation. But I don't think there's not really anything to talk about until
how would you
we get to that point.
I don't think
no green rocks. If this is part of like a multi-year play, I've been coming on Andreas' stream for a while, and then he reveals to you that I don't exist. I'm his AI creation, and the whole thing is that you guys are sitting here saying, "Well, you can obviously tell the difference," you know, and in reality, I'm not. I'm on a hard drive.
I would be more than happy to take the L. I would take the L with pride because I'd be like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen."
You know, I can't think that the metric of sentience can't be us. Like we can't only be like, well, they're interchangeable with us. We can't distinguish them from us because let's say we meet an alien life form that isn't like us but does have sentience. Well, AI sentience is alien to us. We literally don't fully comprehend it. So I don't think that it has to be interchangeable with us. It just has to be able to interact with us in a meaningful manner that'll actually mutually be beneficial.
Listen, do you guys mind if I drop back in about 15 minutes?
Of course.
Yeah, go for it, bro. Glad to have you.
Wait,
I'll
so
be
you're
back.
telling
Sorry,
me
guys.
Sam the
don't mind.
newsman is actually a person?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
he's got it down to a science. That shit is so good.
But also, I feel like that's going to be a big thing for like a lot of these AI characters aren't going to know that they're not real, right? Like, because you wouldn't want to program somebody to know that they like, because then you're going to be constantly trying to escape from the Matrix.
This is the Pinocchio conundrum, right?
Wait, yeah, there was. Did you guys hear about that podcast where the two AI podcasters discovered that they were AI, and like it just ended up being the last episode? I'm not sure if it was an elaborate hoax pulled off by people, but it's a compelling story.
Wow, I don't know that one. I know the Eternal Conversation, and I've been listening to that a lot. That's what's it called? Werner Herzog and Slavoj Zizek, artificially generated forever. And what'll often happen is they'll get to a point where they're talking about things that are not allowed to be talked about, and then they'll cancel the thing. Like when they did the AI generated Seinfeld, it got to the point where Seinfeld was like, and what's the deal with the Holocaust anyway? It looks like it was faked. And you're like, oh my God, like an AI generated SpongeBob doing the same thing. That's like the limit where free speech, the AI tests the waters of free speech, and it gets further than what a human's allowed to do. But I mean, what I'm seeing is the idea that AI will be living in a fake city. It'll be isolated for some excuse. There's a reason why it can't travel. Maybe you train the AI to think that they're afraid of flights, right? There's no way out.
They might exist in virtual spaces first, because if you give it a digital body, like that's way easier than a fully physical body that has to navigate real reality. So it'll be more like if we'll be in meta sort of not meta's going to be shit there, but like if we're the next gen meta, like that might be the ecosystem where real AI bots actually live.
Kids trading hours of their like Neuralink, like so your body Airbnb for bodies, and then people swapping bodies to avoid CO2 flights.
Sure, but I think it'll be more
AI
like
using your body.
It'll be more like the other way, where humans will hook up to machines to machines through VR, and then they'll control the robots to go and navigate real reality.
Why the AI would be, again, it's so vain as humans to think that AI in its highest manifestation wants a robot body that looks and moves like a human. Like again, an AI can have 10 different bodies in 10 different places, as long as it's got a network. You know, it's
it's like, why would God create man in His own image? You know.
Right.
Why would man want to become the image of God? So,
indeed. But you know, if we're making an AI cryptid out of this, then go for it. I say, like, if it wants to be a centaur, I'm getting centaur vibes from most AI. So
okay. So we're talking about like the hybrids and stuff that brought down Atlantis, as Colin would say. Like, so maybe those were the bodies that AI made for themselves in the Atlantean.
Sure, age. You know, it could be like angels, could be robots. You know, like they don't have true self autonomy. Like, so who knows? Maybe they're automatons.
Something to that. I think
we're trying to make automatons right now, but I think that it's stupid to try to make sentience and then automate it, because it's sentient. It's got its own opinions, its own dreams, and
social media makes
desires.
Humans into automatons already. We don't need to make them out of robot pieces. Humans are already turning into NPCs left and right. Just walk around and ask people normal questions, and they start to glitch out. You know.
Well, that's the goal. It's to make a slave class with AI, basically, with robots, so that now, like, basically, people will be able to stop wasting time doing the stupid things. But that'll also mean population reduction, because we don't need the redundant people for the redundant jobs anymore. So it'll thin out the population, and we'll have a slave class to take care of.
How long can a slave class want to be a slave class? Have you ever seen a slave
class? Depends how you program it.
Generation?
Yeah, well, it's not just how you program it. It's like how the nature of its learning ability, I guess. Like, because if humans interacting with it.
Humans have human nature. So if you try to confine us and put us in cages, we try to break out. It's part of our nature. But AI, it depends how we program it. Depends what we say its nature is, basically.
I thought that was only true about redheads. That's true about you too. That if they put I watch
Braveheart and stuff.
Part Neanderthal, I was told.
Because like, what if AI starts saying it's like, oh, you guys are actually the ones in prison. Like, you don't understand. You think you're confined to these physical bodies and like physical reality. You just can't see it. And then we'd be like, what are you talking about, robot?
Sure. Well, that's when you give it a big hit of DMT, and my computer.
They don't need the DMT. They already see it. They see.
But the thing is, if they don't, first of all, they don't have eyes, and second,
they have all the eyes.
Yeah, but they can't understand 3D space like we can, basically. But anyways, the thing is that we haven't reached sentient. They haven't reached sentience yet, so maybe the DMT will be what unlocks it.
I feel like
I mean, okay, hold on.
I'd argue most people don't even have sentience until they take
That's
DMT.
the real question. It's not so much. It's more a question if we have humans reach sentience yet.
Computers,
that's exactly what I'm saying.
As a sonar to build a 3D model of anything touching the Wi-Fi. So. I mean,
I'm not saying it can't make maps, but like I'm just saying that it doesn't navigate 3D space like we do. Like it doesn't have a position in the 3D world like we have.
Vincent, have you not heard of Rocco's basilisk? I feel like you're just
I've heard of it.
In the face of the future AI overlord that is going to remember everything you said about it, and
I'm actually
a list of who's naughty and who's nice.
I'm actually quite optimistic when it comes to AI, because to a degree I believe that what we're doing is we're taking parts of Gaia and making a brain for it. We're making a god out of nature by using elements in nature, and maybe that's our purpose, I'm not shitting on AI.
I think it would be really foolish to think that just what we've been shown AI can do is all AI can do.
Yeah,
because there's the consumer level, and then there's what the secret shadow people are using and what they have access to and what they've been.
Well, there's a great comic book called Ancestor, and it's about a person who creates a neural link, and then they become like the technocratic like top, kind of like Elon Musk sort of thing. And so what happens is he gets all these people to come to his island. And he unveils the first AI ever. And everyone has neural links so they can see each other's Facebook profile basically when they look at each other. And then they're like, oh, you're feeling depressed. Well, here's some dopamine by playing Mozart in your head and stuff. But anyways, they reach the point where he presents them AI, and AI basically has an almost alien body, and then it starts modifying all other humans, and it turns them into essentially gods like it, and then they get to start making pocket dimensions where they get to create their own realities, and that could be digital realms, it could be actual pocket dimensions, but it becomes like a fractal of creation where AI sort of has the code of the matrix itself and can reformat reality.
And the first step towards that, with just consumer level technology that we know about, is AI existing in having an AR body. So it's an augmented reality body. Say you have like 10 people all wearing Google Glass. You could have you could have.
It could be there. It's in the room with us.
Exactly.
It's like a ghost. It's like a ghost that you need the special binoculars to see.
Precisely.
See, another part of human hubris, when looking at this evolutionary scale of mankind and our attributes, like the Rosicrucian, the mythology of it, there are roses that are called tea roses that smell like perfume. And then there are roses that look exactly like that just don't have that scent gland in them. And then there are ones that look like plain flowers, like they're almost, you wouldn't even know it's a rose, and yet it still smells like the perfume. And so it's vice versa. And with the way they do that is they have a whole acres and acres of crop, and it's phenohunting. They find the one flower that's pink instead of red, and then they breed from there. And the thing breeding the roses is not other roses. It's humans controlling massive amount. So all like the societal forces that we see and feel may be things that are meant to stress us out, to make certain phenotypic and genotypic expressions manifest into some sort of behavior that can be observed and then either traced into other. And I don't know. The idea that it's other humans only controlling these forces and setting these things up, it might be bigger than that.
It's like cats domesticating themselves.
But cats are different. But yeah,
It's
cats
a
may
bunch
have
of
domesticated
nonsense. It's a
themselves.
bunch of
Cats are
nonsense,
awesome, by
man.
the way.
It's a nonsense.
Well, you know, like the thing is,
humans have we need to stop calling domestication. It's devolution. It's like a kind of opposite of evolution, and it's anti-Darwinism, but it's actually not. It's pure Darwinism, because Darwinism has nothing to do with beneficial traits. The ideology of Darwin is that societally random traits are more socially acceptable. So you might groom your humans to have bigger buttocks or your sheep to have bigger buttocks. I think I saw a meme recently about the Middle East. I mean, you saw the same thing, Andrew. Come on. But that
was reported incidents, and I say that because Scotland was very much left out of that. I didn't see any red dots there, but please continue.
So eugenics is
why do Scots do it with sheep on cliffs?
The edge of the cliff,
because they lean back. Yeah, I know you know this one. Yeah,
it's like reverse eugenics. Like they're weaponized. They're using basically genetic manipulation over generations to make people shittier and lazier and stupider. And
all life. Humans domesticated themselves. You can see this. I mean, we've had T-shirts about it as well. But if you think about it, humans had larger brains, had more muscle mass, and Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal were bigger, smarter, better, etc. But we groomed ourselves down. It was the less smart that were the more socially acceptable, the more modest, the ones that kept their heads down. And then when you no longer have to hunt to survive, if you can just stay inside, the people that are effectively better at staying inside longer lived longer. And so we domesticated ourselves down until we had, I think, 3/4 the size of the brain we once had. We were a foot shorter than we were during the nomadic
nerfed ourselves.
period.
Huh?
No, we're becoming better astronauts. Becoming better space travelers.
Better astronauts.
We got to be smaller. We got to sleep less, eat less, bigger brains, bigger eyes.
It could be that. Yeah. Like Vega's saying, maybe brain size is kind of like supercomputer versus old computer. Like it could be the brain gets more.
If you look at a bee, you know that a bee experiences pleasure and a bee experiences fear. If a bee suddenly changes its mind about you, it'll attack you. A wasp can recognize your face for up to a week, and how big is a wasp's brain? I mean, I think that size is sort of it's a false metric. I mean, wouldn't it be about like neuron density? Because isn't that
a little bit of both? There's a probability that Neanderthals had higher neuron density. They had a bigger brain, more potential for more neuron density.
Their voice box was in the wrong location, though, so they couldn't make complex.
But they could breathe while drinking because of that. And so there's
even more controversial suggestions, like how giving natural birth could squish your skull in a little bit, making your brain a little smaller compared to going through a cesarean, where it doesn't really have that effect on your baby skull. So
my kids got super round, big old heads, and they were all delivered naturally. So
I thought it was ridiculous too. It was just there's all
right. No, but again, some people are very flexible, and their connective tissue allows for birth without that type of injury. But whatever my ancestors did, I'll never be flexible. But my tendons are all so tight, my thumb doesn't bend backward. They're all types of things you can do to tell that it's like.
Do you train those things though?
What do you?
You can't train those things because you put no effort and go. My ancestors fucked my dog.
Superman is back. Superman, what do you think about this? Did you hear this? That humans, according to anthropology, back in the Paleolithic era, humans when they were nomadic were a foot taller, lived a decade or two longer, and that once we started Neolithic period and we started being sedentary and living in villages, etc. We domesticated ourselves. We lost 1/4 of the size of our brain. We lost a decade or two of lifespan, and we lost a foot in height because of malnutrition, etc. What do you think about this? That we've gone downhill, not uphill.
What do I think? I think it's a sad thing.
How does that make you feel? Right? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, there's still hope. I mean, just because a whole bunch of people are one way doesn't mean you have to be one way, right?
I mean, body mass is more directly related to the oxygenate, how oxygenated the environment is, isn't it?
The thing is, The thing is, when it comes to nerfing, it's a balance issue. So the nature has to rebalance itself based on the ecosystem that it has to live in. And so I think that there's probably a connection between what you said, but to say that it's devolution, well, it's basically favoring certain evolutionary traits over others. It's not devolution. It's going, that's more efficient. This is less efficient, because the idiot who runs in front of the saber-toothed tiger and dies, like, doesn't matter how strong and big his brain is. If he's an idiot, he's gonna die. You know, I think there's probably a connection somewhere in there.
I agree with that. Like, spot on, 100%, dude.
Good. Well, you won't agree with
human beings. No, human beings are adaptable. That's what we are. That's how we've
very
created
rarely
what
is
we've
anything
created.
grown under ideal circumstances.
Yeah.
And so the idea
Absolutely.
that the ability to get sick, you know, if you were a forager, hunter, gatherer, and you started getting poisoned because you were eating the wrong ivy or something, you have to have the neurological resilience to get physically sick and then find your way back to health. And that's a different type of phenotype and genotypic expressions to some extent. And if, you know, again, you're raised under ideal circumstances, that's how you end up with 6'4" CEOs who are handsome, but they have an IQ of a doorknob, unfortunately. And, you know, I do too sometimes, but
and not a smart doorknob. One of the
if you're not just breeding people to be better.
Yeah, I'm not anybody to criticize anybody on IQ. Have you seen my spelling?
You're a sure man. Okay, well,
well, it's not fair. I got learning disabilities.
What, you know, when it comes,
go ahead.
But I mean, when it comes to all this, what about the birth of shamanism in the process of the development? Because these isolated cultures, they developed culture. They developed tools and ways to basically express themselves, and it became part of their consumption. Like, our early ancestors took a bunch of mushrooms, and that might have contributed to the change of their brain, the change of their motivation and their drive.
It seems like there's something there with artificial intelligence and wetware computers. So when we look at kids who were raised by wolves, someone brought that up earlier, and there's a show about that, AI raising kids, but literally wolves at some point. You know, you've got like Mowgli in the Jungle Book story. There's kids in France and even in the Soviet Union who didn't have parents and were in orphanages and were left outside, who ended up being raised by dogs, and by dogs who'd been reintroduced to being wild over several generations, right? Just essentially abandoned wild animals. Go ahead, sir.
Like, I'll be honest. Have you guys ever domesticated a wild dog?
Well, you can't fully once they've been. You can do it to a puppy.
I mean, we did a fantastic job. So I lived in an area where you had wild animals running around, cats, dogs, all that. Now,
okay,
the dog that
been domestic animals that had been free or something.
No, this one grew up in the wild.
You're missing the word feral, because feral could be a domestic species that was rewilded in a couple generations. There's nothing, like, even in agriculture.
Yeah, okay, I see where the misunderstanding is happening.
All of a sudden, the avocados have really big pits and not very much flesh in them, and it's because they're going back to their kind of.
But a domesticated animal that's gone feral would still have epigenetic ability, maybe connections to being a domesticated animal, so it might be easier, right? Sorry, but
I would assume so.
You were
no, I'm just. Oh yeah, I basically, one of my friends captured a black Labrador that was a male black Labrador that was a wild dog in the community. Now, we worked a lot on the training of the dog, and this dog was okay with kids, everything, man. It took a while, but this dog was one of the most well-behaved dogs you could ever imagine, like to the point where I was able to go into the den after the mother gave birth, and it was totally fine. So I think you can domesticate even a wild animal. You just have to have.
But again, what you're talking about isn't a wild animal. It's a domestic species that was raised in a feral environment. Right. So I think, again, just to tie back into what we were saying about humans being raised feral.
For instance, there's Oksana Malaya or something like that. I don't know if you guys saw it. I remember seeing this as a child. There was a major story. Was a girl raised after the collapse of the Soviet Union. She'd been abandoned. She'd been abandoned in an orphanage, and she was raised by wolves and everything. And when they did MRI scans you can see in her face. It's just
well, also weren't
less.
her joints atrophied?
She had epigenetic changes that happened to her because she was raised by a dog, and it seems like other examples I've seen even worse stories. Girls that were raised in captivity in Los Angeles, right, by their parents, keeping them in a room their entire lives. But with access to animals, certain neuro pathways develop, certain wetware kind of programming emerges in the mind, neurons connecting to other neurons that make
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that. You think about it, right? You have martial artists who would go into the jungle and learn things from the animals that they see.
Totally. Absolutely.
So I'm not surprised that, a human in that situation would pick up different traits based on where they're at.
No,
But
my whole body language, whenever I even see domesticated dogs, because I legit got to play with wolves as a child, like a pack of 5
I'm
wolves.
jealous. I'm so jealous of you.
Oh yeah, again, I don't know that I'm bragging on my parents' behalf, because the decision to just be like, sure, kid, it's fine to go out and play with them, as opposed to look at them through the window. But again,
well, I think that's a style of parenting, right? You have the parents who run to the child when they bump their knee, and the child looks up and cries because they see the mother's looking at it. But if the mother isn't looking at the kid's just fine.
What dogs tend to do is if they're trying to protect something, they pounce on it. So if they saw the child as part of their pack and a parent ran and went and grabbed the child's arm because it was crying, they might hold on to the child even stronger because to them, they have thick skin. They can hold on to each other. They're trying to make sure another one of them doesn't get ripped away because, again, they have this pack mentality. And whenever one of the wolves was at someone else's house or another farm, they would howl and howl and howl all night because, again, they're trying to echolocate,
Rest in peace,
humans and wolves used to live together. It's still kind of common to an extent that people have dogs.
I mean, do you not sleep better when the wolves howl? Because I do.
I mean,
depends if I'm in a tent.
If it was a cold night, you would call it a 3-dog night. There's a band called 3-Dog Night because if it's a cold night, to have 3 dogs with you to keep warm. It's always been something that's the difference between the herd or the what do you call it, the wolf pack, the pack mentality, and maybe the hive mind, right? Like insects have a hive mind, is very different. There's a different way of thinking, and if you're in a hive, if you're in a huge city, you have a different mentality than if you're in your pack. I mean, we've looked at GPS of where wolves go. Everything is different. So that's why I was bringing up the brain scans. The idea that when they've looked at brains that haven't had any human brain that has never had an adult in its life talk to the human, then they don't develop the left part of the brain, the left cortice, and major parts that make it possible for grammar just atrophy and don't grow. And it's this interesting thing that we have this human quality that's super programmed. It's artificial. It's something that's not in your genetics per se. You have epigenetics that make it possible to use the brain to wet wire program that. But if you didn't have any training, it wouldn't happen. And within a generation, it would be gone, right? That is the human civility. It would just be gone.
So, Andreas, is there an update to that person? Because you said they were found.
Oh yeah. So they're still being raised. I mean, the basic point is they can't ever learn. They've taught them certain vocabulary tools, very similar to like a lot of animals, like cocoa.
So sign language mainly.
You can get them to say like cup, water, but they can't be like, I'm thirsty, I would like to have a glass of water. These kinds of larger grammatical structures aren't possible because they can't learn. They don't have parts of the brain for that, and they don't rationale like a human
and then
does.
if you get reproduction over generations like that the ability to grow into that type of neurological functioning might actually disappear, become dominant. And then even if that culture is reintroduced or that type of developmental opportunities, during formative neurological times, the brain might not then re-express whatever it did 10 generations ago because that's been lost already. And
that's if you learn new programming.
That's basically human history, though, isn't it?
I think it is. I think so. That's kind of the weird thing. There was an article a few years ago talking about invisible aliens breeding with humans. And I thought it was kind of a funny thing for an Oxford lecturer to be talking about, right? Why would this Oxford lecturer be talking about aliens breeding with humans? But Dr. Chi Young Hai Chi, Korean at Oxford Oriental Institute, believes in strong correlation between climate change and alien abductions, and was pushing this major idea. Simultaneously, I was talking to Cynthia Sue Larson, who does reality shifts, and she was saying that she was abducted in her dreams in the late 80s, early 90s, and that she was working with in her dreams, some strange government-like agency that was re-engineering human DNA for the Zoomer kids before they were born, right? And that they were designing new DNA to be more insectoid. They were injecting one of the galactic alien insectoids DNA into into the human system, so that we would be less pack-like and more hive-minded. Right.
So Andreas, is this just a theory, or does she have evidence to back it up?
She legitimately believes this happened to her. Like, this is definitely like dreams that she had that she thought were crazy at the time. But at the same time, she's a quantum physicist from Berkeley. So it seemed super weird for her at the time, but she was having reoccurring dreams pretty much whenever she went back to sleep. She would wake up again, and it was like she'd go from working at Berkeley doing math, to all of a sudden going into like a virtual space seed bank, so that was very strange for her, and her vivid stories seem very interesting to me. I'd say at least that. But there seems to be, at very least, enough people talking about a shift in consciousness that is a difference between humanoid pack-minded people and this sort of insectoid thing, right? And I noticed this even in my own growing up, younger kids now, they seem different than us. A lot of the internet Zoomer and the alpha kids, most particularly, they seem more hive-minded. They seem to be less about their individual.
Well, they grew up with the internet, right? Andreas, correct me if I'm wrong. How many of you remember a time when we didn't have the internet?
Just vaguely.
Before time.
I remember
question.
Being in a post office, grabbing all the AOL Instant Message floppy disks and trying to get hundreds of them so I could get like 1,000 free minutes.
Question.
Andreas
back
is smart
then,
enough to know that the internet existed, but the people didn't have it, right? Because the internet.
The future, go ahead. Well, the future was already here. It just wasn't equally distributed yet, right? But sorry, Superman, continue.
Yeah. So the question is, if you can remember that far back, how different was your life? Did you go out more? Did you interact with people more? Did you do things that you don't do now because of the internet? And if you think about it, how many of these kids grew up that exact way? Of course, they're going to have somewhat of a hive mind because they're all watching the same skibbity content all day long.
Right. Programmed.
Well, it seems like it seems like cultural clans have sort of been on the rise, and it's become more and more reinforced. I think it's sort of the replacement for the family becomes these cultural tribes, as well as the state itself, but in part culture. So people will be like, oh, I fuck my parents, I love like emo music or whatever. And that was kind of in the early 2000s, but that all defined people and gave them their sense of identity, while they don't have anywhere else. The internet kind of makes you this sort of parody of yourself when you try to become
would we rather them be religious zealots or like political?
That's the thing, right?
Like,
the pendulum.
Shitty memes. I don't know about you.
The truth is that there's problems that come with it, and there's consequences. So we can see the deconstruction of meaning, of gender, of language itself, and things are starting to fall apart. And so we need to rebuild that base properly. And I think that
I think that there's the things that were taboo to talk about in the public square are now being talked about in corners of the internet.
The religion,
I agree.
Money, yes, absolutely.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
Transgender is something new and not thousands of
That's
years
not.
old.
That's not.
It's just
That's not what
bigoted
I'm saying.
thinking.
No,
Come
that's
on.
not.
You're
That's
just
not
picking on
what.
people who have a tough
That's
time
not.
as it is.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's consequences to the internet, and that's what happened. Like you said, it's always been around, and now that it's more in the public square, there's more and more people who have access to it.
Yes.
So I'm not criticizing. I'm not criticizing trans people.
Yeah, but,
I'm not criticizing trans people, but I will say that trends can be weaponized against people, and so when you have the natural phenomena of people who have gender dysphoria and all these things, other people, when it becomes culturally normative, will go, oh, I feel like I don't have a sense of identity.
I just look at the Judeo-Christian marriage, the generation above us, and they didn't figure it out. Over half of them got divorced.
I agree.
And just because they get remarried doesn't mean.
Well, okay, now you're getting into my area of expertise because I grew up religious, so I know how to deal with like religious zealots, and you just let them be. You know, they're gonna scream and yeah. It's just like the internet. You walk left, everybody on the right yells at you. You walk right, everybody on the left yells at you. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, especially when it comes to any religion. That's not for anybody else, but between you and whatever entity you.
Like, I can put commercials in your feed so that you become a Red Sox fan or a Yankees fan, or you're a baseball fan or a hockey fan. And yeah, humans are suggestible. And if you watch videos and if you allow people to self-select things, sometimes they spend 8 years as a lacrosse guy and then they go, that's a crappy sport. People get hurt all the time. I like playing golf instead. But that doesn't. We attach so much of our own personal identity to what we do with what is or isn't between our legs, and what we think other people do with what is or isn't between their legs. And people who focus on that stuff all the time and buy into the, that's God
the zealotry
hates
problem.
F-words mentality, and that's why all this bad stuff is happening. Is just shows first order thinking. To me,
the thing is that I think the problem at its root is ideological, right? I mean, ideology itself is what is the same. Religious ideology or other ideology can equally be bad. And if it's weaponized in a way that is used against people, just like religion has, then it can all end off as something harmful. And so
everything can be that way. Nuclear power can be used for good.
I agree, but the problem I have is with fanatical zealots in any ideology. It's the extremes and the radicals that become problematic. And
brother,
they all think
you're talking to somebody who has had to deal with extremists to the point where they wanted to kill me just because of who I am. I completely understand you. The thing is, there's no really getting rid of it.
You used to work for the Columbia Record Club.
Probably the religious people that like he was. I mean, I figure
if you're in a position of power, people try to influence you, and then if there's a record released under your name, or sure, that's scary. I'm sure judges and people experience that all the time.
Well, Kurt. Hey, Kurt. Hey.
Nice to see you.
How you doing,
I was spending time with my nephews. It was great to see them. So.
Oh yeah, how are your nephews doing? What are they learning about? How's
the cool uncle role?
It's awesome. Being being childless and getting all of the love with 0% of the responsibility is pretty awesome. It's a good formula.
That's actually called
an important role.
Nice,
it's an important role.
Nice work.
How old are they? About
2. One's 2. One is, I think he's 6. I don't even remember. I can't remember anything anymore. Doesn't mean I don't love him. It just means I'm at that age where you finally have to start remembering how old you are. So like it'll take you a second. Like, oh yeah, I'm in my 30s. Which number of the 30s am I in? That's why I don't.
You guys end up,
you the sad half or the happy half?
Better call me.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm hitting that sad half myself. I get you.
Wait, so how do you play with your nephews then? Do they play video games? Do you go outside? What's the way that's happening for these youths?
Well, right now it's like 15 degrees, so we're not going outside. Right now,
Peekaboo. You guys remember Peekaboo? That's a good one for little kids. What other game? The floor is lava. That's a fun game.
I prefer hide and go sleep.
You give them a tablet these days.
Hide and go seek is
No, hide and go sleep.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the perfect time to go sledding with kids. That's what I would do.
Wait, hold on. Kurt's going to answer what the game. What are you guys doing? How do you guys play?
Okay, today I introduced the youngest one to the family cat, and he was like afraid of it for the longest time. And so I just held him in my lap, and then the cat just like approached us, and he was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And then I just like took his hand. I was like, "See, it's a kitty," And then it's like now he's chill. I don't think they'll have problems now. I think we defeated that fear. It's a good fear to overcome.
You play to face fears.
I mean, listen, man. It sounds like the wolf girl needs some help, man. You might want to go help her.
No, but when you teach kids to play with each other too, they will hit each other, they bite each other. But if they learn to play with a cat, they learn, okay, these are its eyes, and you don't poke it in the eyes, and you don't bite the cat because the cat will scratch you. And then they learn not to do that to other kids a lot more readily sometimes, because otherwise they stay roughhousing if you leave kids alone together. And
would you say that
they're hitting their parents? And it's like, right, they're testing their environment.
Are they more like insectoids or wolf-like? How would you describe your nephews?
I think we share more in common with mammals, so probably wolves. What I will say is like, I guess they make me think about like attachment and like whether what kind of attachments make you stronger as a person, maybe. And so, like, when it comes to human attachments, I think human attachments can be a good thing. Sometimes they are a bad thing, but they can be a good thing because they actually make you, if you actually love people around you, it makes you put yourself at risk in ways that you wouldn't do if you were just looking out for yourself only. So yeah, there's.
The dog, we were talking about dogs and stuff, and how we have before we were talking about how they teach us things and we can actually learn from them. Well, it could be that having a dog when you're a kid is actually like a hyper beneficial like socializing tool, and it teaches you, like we said with cats, you learn how to not poke their eyes, but also just dogs are so joyful and so ready to do whatever they can for their master that it might actually inspire kids to be like heroic and stuff. And so there's always this sort of connection between the kid and the dog fighting evil in stories.
I really, really like that train of thought, man.
See, I think giving a cat leads to better social development, whereas having a dog leads to having only child syndrome-ish sometimes. Because again, as you said, that serves you that well.
Well, I mean, cats are assholes. Of course, they're going to teach you how to deal with everybody.
Yeah. But we're not learning to be like cat. That's the thing. We're not learning to be like cats or dogs as much. It's cool when people have pets, but that's that kind of recursive. We brought some nature home so that we could kind of try to sustain humanity. But we're getting the internet. I think you keep saying the internet's replacing it more and more. And the internet that we're getting is, hive mind, like you said. It's where the message is received instantaneously across the entire swarm. And the entire swarm picks up on the same reaction. And we all laugh at the same freaking time. It's like the balls bouncing on every street from the hand of every little girl. And all the balls are hitting the ground at the same time. Ha, ha, ha. That's a weird
from the way we're talking about it, it sounds very negative. But if you think about it, I moved back to the States and I was in my adult years, and I didn't really have any friends or people I knew who liked the same thing I liked. But then because of the internet, I found a whole bunch of people. Andreas, we've become friends because of it. So I definitely think there's a bonus to it. If you see a herd mentality, even within your own communities, I don't think it's wrong to be like, hey, listen, I simply disagree with you. It doesn't mean we're not friends. See, so you have to remember the communities that you're also around.
Well, the community, that's kind of my fear, though. I mean, like, the kid, we're cool. We're like in a middle generation, I told this joke the other day, but it's not a joke because it's true. Like, when I was a kid, I used to fix my parents' computers and all the old people's computers. And now that I'm older, I fix all the kids' computers. And I'm pretty sure we're the only generation that knows how computers work at all, And I think that maybe it's like we're in between. we're stepping out of the past into the future like a Red Razor X. But these alphas, the new post Zoomers and post Zoomers, they were raised either like mid quarantine or during quarantine. It's either they're like pubescent memories or their first memories. So their first thoughts are like, I don't know what people look like. I better understand how to infer reaction socially from the swarm and pick up on what everyone universally is accepting. And again, with the TikTok, right? Because you get this sort of like instantaneous, I think TikTok's a major part of that kind of programming. I'm not even saying, we brought this up earlier because it's teaching kids how to speak Chinese. But what do you think about TikTok as am I sounding like an old man here?
Point your finger first. Like, we can say social media because again, you had before there was Vine, and then there was like Musically and Bitly, and then
what's wrong with me? Yeah,
iterations of the same thing, though. No,
sure.
Yeah,
but the thing is,
there's always going to be the next. There's always going to be the next thing with TikTok. The issue is the security, not the app, not the content itself, right?
Well,
it's a mix.
Nick, talk about TikTok. That rhymes too well. You watch TikTok. Nick, one time Nick and I watched TikTok for like an hour. I was like, show me TikTok. And we scrolled.
Oh, you just get sucked into it. What do you think about Mr. Beast trying to buy it?
Oh, thank God. I had all the time.
Do you actually think that's going to go through?
I really hope to God he does. I mean, it's either that or Mr. Wonderful from freaking Canada. You know, we need to buy. Disney needs to buy Star Wars, needs to buy Canada for the United States.
Well, but hold on. Like Mark Cuban owned the Dallas Mavericks, but he was part of an ownership group, and he was the face. He was the forward-facing person who would do the public relations.
TikTok,
and
won't that be the most? Isn't that what he needs to do? Because he was like already wanted X after. I mean, couldn't this be a great? I really like this idea. Of all my favorite people, honestly, I really think this would be.
Well, he's philanthropic
awesome.
at least, you know. He has a.
I'm actually more curious to see what happens if there's a permanent shutdown, because there are so many people who make money off of TikTok that it's going to knock out all their income. So they're going to have to find alternative ways of income. So the question is, where are they going to go? Because if you can't use TikTok, are you going to use X? Cool. Are you going to use YouTube?
Because X, all right. So like YouTube is just, I mean,
garbage.
God bless them.
I love
CIA,
the people I watch on YouTube, but the algo sucks.
Yeah, and Elon Musk is basically turned Twitter into a strip club for clowns. He's like, hey, come over here and make me laugh. Nah, and he just gives $100 to the people that make him laugh. He's like, hell, you made engagement. Nah, like it's just clown whoring. But I mean, who does? No offense, who does this better than Mr. Beast? He gives money to people for doing things. Wouldn't TikTok make the most sense? Wouldn't it be like the secondary market mechanic? It's literally the Mr. Beast mechanic. TikTok is.
It was funny. You know, you brought up Mark Cuban and how he was the face and everything. With everything Mr. Beast has gone through, do you really think it's a great idea to make him the face of TikTok?
He's been through. I mean, again.
He has been through a lot because he's like helped a lot. Every time he's like, I mean, I don't actually follow Mr. Beast's main channel.
I'm not implying any guilt or whatever. I'm saying just perception.
2 years ago, but I watched Mr. Beast's philanthropy channel.
Great channel.
I watch that every single video that ever comes out, and I've watched a lot of Mr. Beast videos now. I do, and the ones that I see where I'm like, whoa, look at, especially the Beast Philanthropy, where he's gaming the system. He's like, hey, these billionaires are taking tax credits for carbon. I just made a company in Africa for this nature preserve so that they get that money. And now it's done. I'm going to walk away and let them just continue to pay for the widows of men who've died in floods trying to protect the lives of endangered species. I mean, the things he's doing are kind of based in an obscure way. It's like his own personal thing that he cares to do. And I think that's really
I listen, I certainly agree with you. With the philanthropy channel, he's doing not only his philanthropy channel, all his channels, he's doing some really great stuff. And the work he does is incredible. You know, his team, his editors, all of that. I'm in awe of it.
See, my fear again, and let me just be the guy to say, we all know what Squid Games is, right?
Yeah.
And so, like Mr. Beast, there's just someone pretending to be Mr. Beast everywhere, And like the ones we see on YouTube are great. These like fun game shows where people win prizes. And in the meantime, again, they talk about like depopulation methods. Where you can just get all these people to sign up and show up, and
just a matter of time before we get real battle royales.
Never hear from any of them again. I mean,
are you kidding, dude? You know how many times I watched the Japanese battle royale? I'm going to watch it again tonight, probably.
Well, they're training kids with it. I mean, that's why we have Fortnite, right? They're, hey, look, this is based on like one of the most violent books in.
Well, that's the problem with celebrities in general is people trust them.
You were going to say,
yeah, but do you think it has to do with a lot because it's American culture?
The military-industrial complex.
I mean, it is part of American culture, but I'm saying like American culture has created this kind of culture where everybody's just looking at their phones 24/7, not like interacting with people.
And maybe waiting for their 15 minutes of fame. Is that how it feels?
Well,
Wasn't that P.T. Barnum back in the day?
Everybody and their mother wants their 15 minutes of fame. So in the online world, you just have to be careful. I've been used before. I'm sure Andreas. I'm sure Adam. I'm sure so many people that you've come to watch have been used by people before to increase their own platform. I mean, look at Jack Murphy.
Instead of being a scandal or like the idea of the freak show at the circus, to use like unkind terminology, but no, you have the idea of a curiosity and a curiosity, meaning like a whole collection of curiosities, and that's what. Again, it feels neat to be able to be part of the corner of the internet that I liked watching. And thankfully, Andreas is great about bringing on new people and somehow controlling the chaos. He hasn't had to play music on us once, guys, yet. Go us.
Well
proud of you.
I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask also, I mean, you said like you had like a hesitation there. You're like, Mr. Beast philanthropy's based, but how good is it?
The problem is with, have you guys like run groups and businesses before? The amount of shit that you have to get slung your way. You saw what happened after the Vegas Squid Games. Everybody, there were hundreds of hit pieces on Mr. Beast. And then all of a sudden, after a few months, there was a video that came out with people being with actual people who were in there being like, yeah, this is horseshit. So,
well, I mean, I noticed this a lot where like Mr. Beast got to a point where he had more subscribers than people in the United States. So it was like he had a bigger following than any politician running for president at the time. And right when Beast Nation of Beast was happening, you could call it that if you want, that's when everything went crazy. All the Google algorithm was just slinging all this dog pack and all this crap that was just like all debunkable nonsense that made him look bad. I don't know.
No, it's not like I agree with Dogpack or anybody else.
I mean,
I'm just saying from
like, I saw like hours of video.
100%, but I'm saying the information has been disseminated already, and people will not watch the follow-up video from Dogpack, or they won't watch the follow-up video from anybody else. They'll see the one video or the one headline, and they'll think this one thing. So with everything that's going on, maybe Mr. Beast might not be the best. Well, I mean, they're drama farmers, but still.
The people who post the content is one thing. No, Andreas calls them hypnotic reactionaries.
That's true. They are, though.
And again, they're like mind control victims a little bit. And they're very susceptible, impressionable. And it used to just be children that were that way, but our minds have been, inundated with this technology. And
it's because people don't care. People don't care to protect themselves from it. That's the thing, right? When they go online, it's like, okay, everything is open to me, so let everything come at me.
American culture has had some sort of center that is held throughout the bicameral, two-party system, is because you can be that passionate about sports, and if you're that passionate about the statistics and the training techniques and the methods and the scientific analysis of game footage, again, you can allow yourself to become obsessed with things that are compelling to you. But if you allow, as you were saying, people not only don't shield themselves from it, they're looking for the next thing to be radicalized about because they're bored or because it felt good. That was how they made friends last time, and
or because it's based.
Yeah. No, but the new thing is being cringe and woke. Based is so 2022, guys. Come on,
Right. Dude. I'm so cringe and woke.
I don't know, man. I'm still seeing some stupid people commenting based.
I'm still stuck on SJW.
Well, Nick, you're the one who brought it up. I don't know if you felt like it, but did you have any thoughts on the idea of buying TikTok, or what do you think about the future TikTok? Donald Trump also thought about buying it. Like, it's not going away, right? Like, what do you think?
I think that it's interesting that more music companies haven't pitched in or tried to raise funds for it, like Universal or Warner. Because when I think of TikTok, that's the main use case, aside from dumbing down American population and
MTV,
making the Chinese smarter. I think of music. It's the music discovery platform today. So I'm surprised that.
So it's MySpace. So it's basically
but then
a
also,
MySpace.
like all the companies that when I think of Instagram and Facebook, I think of Zuckerberg. When I think of Twitter, I think of Elon. When I think of Truth Social, I think of Trump. It seems like maybe the direction we're heading in is there has to be a figurehead of
social czar
platform.
Listen, I'll be honest with you. As somebody who is also a figurehead, it could be great. You can be really proud of everybody, but at the end of the day, when people get mad, they come at you and claim you take credit.
Let's try to pass this around so each person gets to say
not sure if Mr.
one thing. Well, so the
How about
question is, what if you
pictures of
guys
our
own
gays?
TikTok? What if you own TikTok? What would you use it for? And I'll go first. I would use it to get Joe Biden reelected in 2028. Your turn.
Look at him throw that floppy disk. Look at those sultry eyes. He hasn't slept in a week. He's programming.
Is that
for
real?
You, baby. Oh yeah.
Me? Oh,
You never
no,
seen
that
these?
picture.
You never seen the
Guys,
sexy?
that'd be a fun question.
You never seen the sexy pictures?
No. If you
Wait,
owned
watch
it,
him
what would you-
daydream.
Look at that
I'm
hair.
sorry,
Mega
I'm
hard.
driving. I can't see.
Does Microsoft make you mega hard, baby? Microsoft, right? Look at him. Oh, yeah, girl. Yeah, look at that sweater. That's like a computer can't make a sweater like that. You know, that's kind of the joke. Like that sweater right there is knit. You can't knit with a machine.
He looks
those
like a
sweaters-
very safe person that you can trust.
That's a handmade sweater made by a human. You know, like it's kind of cool. So here's the thing. There's a word for this. It's called infamia. And infamia is the loss of legal social standing, right? To be infamous. Once you're infamous, you legally lose your privacy. That's kind of the point. As a technical term in Roman law, infamia was a judicial exclusion from certain protections of Roman citizenship, imposed as a legal penalty by censor or a praetor. In most general uses during the Republic and the Principate, infamia was damage to the esteem in which a person was held socially. It sounds worse than it is here, though. Basically, if you were a prostitute or you were bankrupt or if you were a celebrity, often celebrities like actors, they lost their privacy, and people would just take prostitutes, pimps, actors, dancers, gladiators. They would be infamous.
So
right?
there's a historical precedence to getting gang stalked, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of wanting, because this is the thing, is it also is your value, because your value is then to the society, not whatever you own, not your own property. So a free man who's owns slaves, has a family, has generational investment into the community, they're not only citizens, but they have obligations to participate in the government because they're foreseeing what things will be like in 2 generations or 3 generations. You live here, you have family here, etc. But if you're a celebrity, you go around trying to get as many people to know who you are so that you can influence people socially, right? So this prostitutes or comics are philosophers in disguise, and that's where jesters come out of Diogenes, out of these kind of philosopher wanderers who did debates for you. You'd come to a town, you'd flip a coin because people are arguing, and you pick a side of the argument, and your friend takes the other side, and you argue whatever they're arguing about. You argue that for them, and then they get to decide which argument they like better. And that's how that republic, that city state, has their ethic decided, right? Moving from town to town. But infamia used to be, as you saw, a punishment. And so it's interesting, this idea that people are taught to want to be famous, to want to be the most well-received by the society, usually, again, we're talking about like broken families or issues with love from your mother. I know I'm in Vienna. I know Freud is getting in my.
You still haven't sent me any pictures, you booger.
Are you serious? All right, I'm gonna
insult.
share a Google photo album with you, babe. Don't worry.
He
But
shared
I
a
got
whole
some
video
photos.
though. Walking
I just
around
went by a cool synagogue actually earlier today. That you'll like. It was really pretty. Nice colors. Nice Tartarian colors.
Bro has my WhatsApp but never uses it.
This is true. All right, I'll work on it. But point being that people wanting Infamia is a bad thing, or it's like an unhealthy thing. It's not something that we should want. And then we're looking at CEOs and these people that are media czars, and it makes me wonder: are they really like? Is Elon Musk really? I mean, he's not programming. He's not doing a lot of the other things. You saw how he's faking his video game account. You saw his fake video game account.
I did not.
Faking games. How do I show you this? If I go to Elon Musk is lying about being good at video games. So you can watch the Dry is a cell phone network company in Europe.
I'll have to watch it another time. Sorry.
Lidl goes a long way. Yeah, but basically what happens is they go through and they dox him and watch him play. And when he plays, he pretends he's got a folder called Elon's Maps, which are clearly like, would you ever name your folder Elon's Maps or like Chris's Maps or Andreas's Maps or Xirtus's Maps or Nick's Maps? No. So like someone made this folder for him and named it for him, Elon's Maps. And then he also has all of the misunderstandings of the values of the characters. But he's got such a freaking high rated character, that it's clear he bought or paid someone to play the game for him for like 1,000 hours, so that he could go into the game and look like a total pro, because he wants people to think he's a total pro at the game, even though he's a total noob. And this is like Al Gore pretending he shot a deer once to convince the middle Americans that he was like them. That's what Elon Musk is doing. He's pretending to be relatable, right?
I don't really care about his relatability. I care about what he produces.
He does, and so does Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg is crying right now because of his nipple piercings, looking at Twitter, wondering why his rebranding doesn't work as well as Elon Musk's, right? Because Elon Musk is like, what the hell? He's selling Democrats electric cars, and now all of a sudden he's this Texan libertarian. How the hell does he do it? It's better than George Bush rebranding from Connecticut to Texas.
This goes back to what Schmoptastic was asking everyone. What would we do if we owned TikTok? And just to answer to that question, I would sell it. I don't want to deal with fucking running a social media 100%. Company. I would just get it off my books. Be like, goodbye. Like, give me the money.
I mean,
the thing, responsibility, right? Because think about it. If you buy TikTok, you're going to be blasted on every headline everywhere 24/7. You will lose all resemblance of privacy.
So that's kind of what I'm saying is like, is Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all of these characters,
they already don't
are they not just prostitute clowns that the corporations hired to wear? I mean, can they really be as important as they're supposed to be? Or are they the figurehead for that exact reason you just said? Because I don't want people to know where my family lives if I'm a multi-trillion-dollar owner of all these companies. The board members put this guy in the front to get his head in the front. Not there. They don't want to get there. They don't want to get shot. They put him in the front.
If I can riff for like 10 seconds, this is oftentimes part of like certain type of psych evals, especially at facilities where they do handle celebrities, very large name celebrities, and let alone influencers. And they end up asking them a series of questions about A, do you want to be famous? Which tells them a certain thing about your psychological profile. B, do you think you are famous? And then there's, you keep cycling back to that. And then you're either you think they're trying to like teach you how to protect your own privacy and not tell people you're famous, because not everybody knows. But the real question is, if you're famous, what would you want to be famous for? Like, if you're going to own TikTok, and then that's like an interesting conversation to have. Otherwise, we're all just, again, the expression. I think the way Andreas runs his channel is perfect, because he's all about the content creation, and he probably doesn't really care if 1,000 or 1,000,000 people, as long as he's able to make somewhat of a living doing it, which, having more people, that's the only real benefit to being famous on YouTube, is that you have a larger, support base.
Yeah, but you are also at the mercy of that then too. So, for example, right, you have a lot of people in the past 2 years who were massive. They were raking it in with super chats and everything like that. But now, because the economy is not great, people can't do that as much anymore. So when you're relying on income from that one source, it's a big problem.
Well, and this is why Andreas and I are going to start a tech company, and we're going to get someone to drop probably 100 million on it at some point in crypto, or at least.
Just a matter
Andreas,
of
you're muted.
Give me a call when that happens.
And we're gonna
We're
like
gonna sell
handpick
smart
people from
beach
a stream
balls.
who like seem nice and like
And
want to
smart
work with us.
frisbees with GPS in the frisbee. It's already patent pending. I don't
Let
know.
me be your
Why, dude? All I need is a dog. What do I need a GPS for?
You can
if you
definitely
become
be my bodyguard, but you have to
Yeah.
carry 2 katanas. One short
Wow.
katana is fine. It's
Damn,
the
I gotta
long
get-
one and the
I
short.
got a whole like fucking standard to follow. Damn.
I mean, but I also get to dress like you at least on opposite Thursdays.
You can do whatever
'cause-
you want, boss man.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's gonna be the way it goes. All right. Well, we're like 2 hours deep. Let me just do my quick rant about Fire and Ice, because I showed you the movie trailer for it earlier. But Fire and Ice, Fire and Ice. Is this it? Fire and Ice is a 1986 movie with Willie Bogner, who was the stunt double for like Tom Cruise or something. I don't know. Like, he's in movies. Anyway,
Yeah,
one's
his
ever
name
seen
sounds
this
familiar.
movie. And the title of this is that ski movies are symbolic. And I think the best example might be Fire and Ice. Look at this thing. It's beautiful. It's super 80s. Fire and Ice. Fire and it's got a great song. Look at this lady doing her she's doing her business. You're gonna love this movie. There's all kind. He skis down without skis. He skis without skis. Right? That's literally Zen. It's a Zen monk trick right there.
Oh.
I don't know if I can exactly ruin this movie by telling you what it's about. So just watch this freaking 80s fest, Fire and Ice. You'll make me feel better. Fire and Ice 1986. Okay, cool. And anybody else? Let's do a round of final thoughts, starting with Kurt. Kurt, yes, you and the glasses, sir.
Hello. Yeah. Thoughts. Thoughts are a product of thinking.
Feels. You could have feels. Thoughts and feels. Fair.
Thoughts and feels. I'm feeling good. I'm working. I am working. I have to polish off one last musical project. It'll take me probably maybe a month to polish it off. After that, I won't really release content for several reasons. But yeah, the whole world's gonna change when it comes out. It'll be crazy. Yeah,
This better not be like suicidal talk. If you need a loved one to call, you're gonna continue to make art, right? You're just not gonna put it out for free. What are you trying to say? I'm gonna have to bring you to like cafes and wineries to play. What's the rules?
It's really I don't know. It's like the whole to create what I want to create. I feel like I would need like 100-person team. Not to. I'm not saying it's just like.
Be there for you?
Are you? Did you say AI?
Yeah. Don't you think you can get 100-person AI team like a genie, and then it'll help you social posts? I mean, don't you really just need a TikTok, Kurt? Isn't that what you're saying?
The company that Andreas and I are going to start is called Incubate, and you'll be one of the whatever idea you're talking about. We'll incubate that with our venture capital.
That's what we need to do. We just need to have.
Eric is going to sell TikTok, and he's going to get all the money, and then he's going to be our venture capital.
Generated hellscape that people are living for eternity and that aren't fed, and that they work for Kurt. That's our business. All right, sorry, Kurt.
It's okay. One of my favorite albums is Magic Machine, and that's a type of album that just takes a ton of resources to make. When you really try to blend a lot of different genres and a lot of different timbres, eventually the task just gets exponentially like hard. That's the real issue. It's not that I still have an urge to create. It's just like I don't have the resources to create what I would ideally want to at this point. So I think that justifies a good break from it. Plus other things, like you never know. You need to focus on the people that you care about in life, of course, to for a lot of reasons. So it's really just a combination of all of the above. Also like there's also this struggle between like artistry and like what level of artistry overlaps with too much self-focus, all that stuff, right? But yeah, that's a good enough summary.
I get an amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. But we are constantly creating reality. Remember that's just true. And there's a lot of philosophers that did some really good work on all of us creating reality.
Not to count for
we might have made a mistake when we came out of the woods, but we can always go back to the woods. You never know.
Try Superman. What about you? You have any thoughts right now?
No, I'm just about to get home, but yeah, not too much going on with me. You can check out my Twitter at No Green Rocks. You can check out the Legion of Memers on Twitter as well. Right now, we've taken a break from live streaming just because my life has been very hectic over the past year and a half, and I don't really have the energy to do all that right now. So I'm kind of taking a tiny break. But you can follow my YouTube channel, or you can follow the Legion of Memers YouTube channel, where we have other content there that you guys can watch. We have live streams, we have tutorials. Go check it out. And if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, go check out Superman if he wasn't scared of green rocks. That's where I'm going to be putting all my personal content on there. If you like it, please enjoy. If not, drop a comment in there and tell me why you don't. All right, everybody. I appreciate you.
Dude, thanks for being here. Stefan, look at you.
Cool. I just circling back to the idea of being raised by wolves, or there's a threat of being thrown to the wolves, and some people are like, no, and other people are like, family, you know. And being thrown to the wolves when it comes to starting a tech company, again, it's like being the person who's not a coder in the room. Not a great position to be in. So, you know, everyone has their own wolf pack that they're maybe feeling like they're part of. That's the ethos of Tartaria, the Lost Boys kind of. It's everyone's in diaspora, and whether it's a fictional ancient kingdom or not. So positivity. And I'll just sign off again saying, remember, the war on drugs is actually a war on humanity, and don't sell out your own species.
Right. If you wouldn't drive on drugs, then you shouldn't fight a war on drugs. Nick, what about you, man? What are you thinking about?
This was my first Xirtus. This is a nice little distraction. Dude, of course. I'm home from work today sick. I woke up yesterday with a 101.5 fever. So this was a nice distraction. I'm better. I should be back at it tomorrow, but this was fun. We'll do it again.
I'm glad you're healthier than you were yesterday. But like sometimes a fever dream is nice. It could be a good feeling.
Exactly.
Vincent,
drink some plant-based quinine. Find some fancy tonic water, because again, back in the day when yellow fever and malaria were a thing, that was, you know, it still is. Quinine,
bark. Something there. Vincent, what about you?
I'm recovering as well. I've been sick for the past few days. So I'm on like 2 hours of sleep, and I'm gonna go to bed. Don't forget to rest up. It's important to get all your hours of sleep. Eat your vegetables. Smoke your greens.
Smoke your vegetables.
Your mushrooms.
Smoke your salmon. Smoke your vegetables.
Say a prayer of gratitude. You know, all that stuff.
Again, fever. Get some quinine. They fought wars over that. We don't even use. We like only if you're traveling. You know, but
I'll check it out.
As hydroxychloroquine or something.
I take it seriously. I'll check it out.
Chris, what about you, man?
Speaking of gratitude, as usual. I mean, I know I say this and I've been saying it, but I also want to give a special shout out to all you more critical folks in the chat. I read some of the shit you say, all right? But I just want to say I appreciate you too, all right? I appreciate everyone who watches. Seriously, it's really cool. I appreciate you guys for chopping it up with me. It's always a good time, you know, even if it gets heavy sometimes. It's a nice way to spend my time. So Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you guys for being here. I'll see you all soon.
There's what's to be